Ragnarok has been around for so many years, and I think that, like, probably one of the first exclusive MarTech agencies. Marketing agencies have been around since, like, the dawn of the internet and even before that, but, like, branding agencies, like, web agencies, those are way more popular than, like, MarTech exclusive agencies, but you guys have
Yeah.
been around since, like, 2012. Basically when I got my own start in marketing, and back then it was really the dawn of marketing automation, and you could still see all the logos on Scott Brinker's Martech landscape without
Yep.
needing the magnifying glass that you do with the landscape today. Knowing how much and like how fast the space has changed in the last decade, what does like the next decade have in store for us? Is Martech just going to continue to explode as a category? What does your crystal ball say, Steven?
Yeah. It's funny. I get these like visionary questions. And I always, the first thing I always say is like, well, what would, Scott Brinker say about this? Or what would somebody else say about this before I form my own opinion? And like, well, I have, lots of opinions on things. It's always helpful to know who people who are actually like researching this every single day. Like,
Yeah.
like I'm involved and I know, off the top of my head, I probably know about 150 tools or so that I've like literally experienced. But there's, tens of thousands out there today. Generally, where I've seen the category evolve to, and this is going to be a little bit more biased towards what we would think of as like the best in breed set of the stack, and maybe some more of the legacy providers, is we're sort of in the middle of a consolidation phase, acquisition phase, right? You sort of had maybe 2 or 3 years ago the big acquisition of like Twilio buying Segment, and then you had kind of Salesforce kind of launching quote unquote its CDP or sort of consolidating a bit more there. You had some other acquisitions from Mparticle. Like there was just a lot of like kind of buy-in, and then you had sort of the we'll call it the 2022 2023 sort of tech meltdown, so to speak, where things just really kind of slowed down, and then we're kind of back up, right? And I have seen some I've seen some acquisitions, right? We have Content Square recently acquiring Heap. So it seems to continue to kind of be there. It's just a little bit slowed down. I think maybe in the next couple years or so, we'll start to see that level out a bit. You'll get a lot more of the new contenders who have matured a bit, like all these new kind of AI MarTech startups. They'll have a chance to mature and pick up more of the market share. And a lot of them will kind of die out, and some of them will get acquired kind of early on. And then some of them will actually kind of raise up. I know you quote Castle.io a lot as a good example of like a kind of newer warehouse-based market automation tool. And I look at, folks like that as well as something to just kind of like look at and keep in mind, even if I don't necessarily have like a burning use case to use it right now. I think I think that sort of direction of the technology or the new technology wave that's coming will inform kind of the next set of MarTech. So, right now we have Gen AI and we have another bunch of startups and, annoying, I'll say a lot of startups that send you lead emails every single day, which, my inbox has never been happier, I guess. I'm sure I'm going to run out of space in Gmail at some point, just because of that feature alone. But the once that platform or once that technology kind of establishes itself, right, just like how marketing automation established itself, and then you sort of landed on CDPs and other things to kind of make marketing automation better, you'll kind of see that next phase, or at least I would envision the next phase where Gen AI is now kind of table stakes, or some form of Gen AI is now table stakes. And now we're looking at, well, what's now the enabler of Gen AI, right? And I think of like some early players there are a phrase or Jacquard now, I think they're called themselves, which are more about how do I kind of take Gen AI and make it really kind of brand focused. When Gen AI is more table stakes, that becomes more important. I think we'll see a little bit more in how do I, like some of these features that we see platforms building now, like Iterable trying to build a Gen AI journey builder, for example, right? Like these are still very, very nascent concepts. And, the marketer sitting down at the computer is probably not going to be like, well, let me, write my brief, for that. I mean, we got to get to the point where the brief is being written by the Gen AI, right? And then it gets a little bit more exciting. So I would think, again, we'll round out our consolidation phase probably the next couple years or so. We'll probably see a new platform where a lot more tools are kind of built on top of, or new legacy players, or just became legacy, will try to get in on it. And then I think by the time you hit the 10-year mark, you're sort of at a different evolution where you're just in a different platform, right? And I think there's going to be a lot less of like, marketer goes in and orchestrates an entire journey. It's probably going to be more of like, how do I like set up the rules of engagement, so to speak, and have the system kind of run itself? Which some of this stuff exists, by the way, but it's very rare and it requires a lot of internal builds. I've seen some really really interesting stuff that people have built, but it's not off the shelf. And so
Mhm.
I think eventually we'll get to that point where you're like, hey, as a, I want to, here, like marketing tool, like, here's my structure, here's my audience, here's my content that I want to send to them, here's the part of the journey, here's my conversion goal, go and build something for me, right?
Yeah.
I think that's kind of our 10-year future there.